historically important building, which was the London headquarters of the African National Congress when they were exiled by the apartheid regime. So in addition to their headquarters on the African continent in Zambia and Tanzania, they had international mission posts, and the London one was here in Islington. So we're transforming that into a cultural heritage centre, which will be part museum, so part exhibition around the history of apartheid, why there was apartheid in the first place, so imperial colonial roots of apartheid, and then really a big focus on the international solidarity against apartheid. So black-led struggle with hundreds of thousands of people around the world taking part, allies from different cultures, religions, different groups, religious groups, gender-facing groups, and really using the lessons and the heritage of that struggle to inspire people to continue to take a stand against injustice wherever they find it.
What exactly are you lot doing today to try and stop something like apartheid happening again in Africa?
Well, that's part of the reason that we exist, really, because we want to make sure that people understand the history and how that came about, and that individuals can work collectively for change, so that people here don't just see it as part of history, but they learn how a really divided society that's divided by the regime was able to kind of work and collaborate across those racial divides and create change, and that's still relevant very much now in the world, because there are still huge racial and all sorts of structural inequalities. So we want it to resonate with communities here, nationally, locally and globally.
When you talk about apartheid, I wasn't born during the time of apartheid, but I can tell you that the younger generation now within Africa are very conscious about what is happening. And of course, the African diasporans are very conscious about what is happening. How far have you gone in terms of the government involvement to get this project moving and going?
Do you mean the government here in the UK?
Yes.
So it is supported at a number of different levels. So our main capital funders for the project is actually the Mayor of London's Good Growth Fund. So they really see the value in the project as an education project. So it's really you mentioned about young people in Africa having that consciousness. Young people in this country don't. They don't know about the history of apartheid.
That was going to be my next question to you.
They really don't, and they don't know the extent to which people across the continent of Africa came together in solidarity. And so it's really a project that can go a long way to combating xenophobia, which is a valuable lesson here in the UK, but also within different societies in actually all over the world, but I'm sure on the African continent as well.
You talked about a very important one, xenophobia. It affects Africans everywhere, especially in Africa, in South Africa. What exactly is this project going to do to help Southern Africans, to be specific, about the act of xenophobia that's been happening there recently?
I think reminding them of the struggle that took place, and how that actually you have to look at power and how that operates and how it sets people up to be divided. So the kind of xenophobia about people coming to South Africa because of economic crisis in other countries on the African continent. Those very same countries were some of the people that really supported the struggle against apartheid when they were the frontline states and striving for their own independence. So I think it can be very short-termism that kind of makes people forget those collaborations and actually looking at power dynamics, and that the fault is not with other people from other parts of the continent, but actually in the way that power operates and the inequalities and corruption and all the other things that all governments are susceptible to, but sadly has been the case in South Africa specifically, but elsewhere. So it's actually saying some of these battles have to be fought again and again. It's not apartheid now, but it's still, there's xenophobia, there's inequality, there's corruption, and how does that affect people in different classes and genders? So it's very much part of what we want to do, because we have to be able to tackle ignorance in all its forms,
Absolutely.
I think.
And as my colleague says, it's not apartheid now, but it's inequality or injustice in another
Absolutely,
form.
yeah.
And history is cyclical. What we want to do is to increase the educational opportunity to learn from history, so that we look forward, a bit like the Sankofa model. It's about understanding your past to look to the future, and that is a really It's fundamentally important for people of all ages, but particularly young people, where curriculums could be restricted or there just isn't enough time to investigate, a wider range of historical and contemporary important events. And so that's really our focus, is we want people to learn from the strength of the collaboration against apartheid, to continue to make change wherever that change is, whether it's in your individual community or whether it's on a national level or on an international level. It depends on what your talents are. You use them in your own way, but we can all make a difference, and that's the message.
How do you see Go Africa as a project collaborating with you guys going forward?
I mean, for us, Go Africa is a really important project partner. Go Africa is about mobilising African and Caribbean creatives, and that power of creativity is so very important. The history of the anti-apartheid struggle is littered with the visual imagery of creatives, the music of the struggle, all kinds of artistic forms, sculptures, which were part of the sort of the tools against oppression. They spread the word. They reminded people of your hope. Art is such an important tool.
Absolutely.
And so being part of this creative gathering of like-minded organisations and individuals is really important for us.
Thank you very much for talking to me. It is a pleasure. Hello, welcome back. I'm Lamin Jami. I'm your presenter on this special show here with Go Africa on Interface Media. Hello, madam. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
And what's your name, please?
Aneno.
Anela, it's a pleasure talking to you today. What can you tell us about your background, Anela?
So my background is I'm from East Africa. I'm half Ugandan and half Kenyan. And that's what I brought here today, a bit of fun, a bit of that Ugandan Kenyan experience.
Yes, I can see on your table here. If you just want to come a little bit closer, thank you very much. I can see a lot of stuff here that really tells me a story about East Africa. I don't know much about East Africa, but I've seen Maasais wearing these kind of stuff around their neck.
Yes.
What can you tell us about these jewelries here?
So what I would say is most of the vibrant colours you see here would represent my Kenyan side, and then the more subdued colours, for example, like the bark cloth, is the Ugandan side. And obviously, with the Kenyans, we like our colours, and the colours all represent, something, and that's what you have here. Obviously, with all the sunshine, you always have to show who you are, be proud of it, and it's a lot about your identity and what you're trying to show, the mood, who you're in society. So yes.
So Go Africa, what do you know, and why do you think that this is an important event for African diasporans and African living in the diaspora as well?
I think especially for the young people today, there's a lot of knowledge that they're not exposed to. There's a lot of our identity, like for example, it just looks like arts and crafts I've got on the table, but from a very young age, we learned how to make crafts and make beads as a way to, for example, socialize, a way to calm ourselves, center ourselves, whether we're working with paper beads, whether we're working with bone or soapstone or seeds or porcupine spikes or bark cloth, For example, in the case of bark cloth, this is one of the oldest fabrics in the world, and it's only being currently made in Uganda, and consequently, we've been awarded World Heritage status by UNESCO. This was in 2008. So by bringing some of these things forward and engaging with the young people, it brings them that awareness of things that really they take for granted or don't know about, and they're always surprised. Even when I say, look, these are bones, but guess what? It's actually the spine of a cow, and this is what you can do, without wasting. And
amazing.
so it's fun, informative, and if you hold them up like this, what you get is actually the spine, and the way you say wow is how the children go, oh wow. So It's that learning in a fun, positive way, something they can take back with them and be proud of.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
I have Councillor Lulu Kondoka. I have Councillor Jason Jackson, and they're going to introduce their roles. Beg your pardon. I did a big disservice, sorry. And also somebody who's been championing what I'm doing, who is actually responsible partly for me being a change maker, Charlton Brown. He's going to be taking over from myself.
Hello? Hey, hello. Thank you, everybody. Could we just have a massive round of applause for Anna, who has set this up completely by herself? Amazing. So yeah, we've got some really cool guests coming to talk this evening. We are joined by two of our current fantastic councillors. And we're going to talk about what today means for the community, what it means in Islington, and crucially, what is Islington doing to make this place a fairer place for everybody involved. And we celebrate what today's all about. So, without further ado, I will let our councillors speak, and then we will be joined by some more guests, and we'll have a bit of a panel discussion, and we can get some questions from the audience, and we'll have hopefully some really fruitful and valuable discussion with that. So, I'll hand over. Thank you.
Thank you both.
I'm not going to talk for long because I'm sure everyone's tummies are grumbling, but I wanted to make sure that I was here to say hello to everybody. My name is Rulin Kondoka. I am the executive member at Islington for Equalities, Culture and Inclusion, which is a mouthful for me, but it covers three important things that we really want to stand for in Islington, and it is why we developed this new role from this year. It feeds on a growing ambition from the councillors in Islington that we want to see more fairness, more equality, more inclusion from whatever background that means, whether that's ethnic diversities, LGBT, gender, all the disabilities, so that we're making sure that our community is more well-rounded and more represented in the things that we have in Islington, whether that's through our services, community events, and even in just on the streets, what you see when you pass through the streets of Islington, to make sure that whatever background you come from, whatever age you're from, whatever and whatever ethnic diversity you are, you feel that you belong here in Islington. You find a place, a safe space, the people that you want to engage with, that everybody wants to engage with each other, and you feel safe to be able to do that. So that was really the root of why this role developed. And through that, we are expanding what we're trying to do with community groups, with schools, with community leaders, to develop with the community what is it that you want to see out on the streets, in schools, in community centres, in our town hall. And part of that is recognising events at at important times of the year, which places Black History Month there at the forefront, but also, as we've mentioned at the launch event, recognising that Black history is about celebrating that 365 days a year. It is not just for Black History Month. So we are expanding how we recognise and celebrate and appreciate and talk about Black history across the year through its own standing programme called BH365 that also offers things like this, cultural and history discussion sessions and other more fun events as well. But for today, I'm really, and yesterday, really happy to have Anna really work this all up on her own, and us to give her that space, an opportunity to do that, to reach out to different Black-owned businesses and Black-run ventures to come here and have this safe space to use for your own, and have amazing food, have amazing fashion on show, and to run educational workshops and sessions here for school children as well as adults for yourselves today. So thank you for coming, thank you for being a part of it. I want to see more of this, I want to see more and bigger. We'll work with everyone to see what we can do on that, but certainly it's about making sure that a range of voices are heard, seen, listened to, involved, engaged, and represented here. So, passing both microphones over to Councillor Jason Jackson.
Firstly, welcome everyone. My name is Jason Jackson. I'm a councillor here in Islington, also chair of the Housing Scrutiny here in Islington. I got elected, I think, just when COVID happened. Had a by-election, and then there was the last local election. Look, in Islington, we have identified that we need better representation, right? And this has been something from, as you will probably tell, I'm of the Labour